knee surgery or?
I did.
Did you have, okay, we're on.
Oh, he wishes.
We're on.
15 years I will.
All right, I would like to call the meeting to order at 5:30 with the pledge of allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Keith Gordon,
Yes.
Max Delory,
Yep.
Tim Hand,
Yes, ma'am.
Michelle Kelly. Here. Jamie Wilson. Here. John Dusendorf.
Here.
All right, we are going to have the floor open for nominations for President of the Board of Education.
Nominate Keith Gordon.
That,
Nominate Keith Gordon. Second.
not doing motion yet. Want a motion to close then? All right, motion to close nominations for President of the Board of Education. Need a motion? I'll motion. And then a second.
I'll say.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Election of president. Vice president? Nope, that was just a motion to close. Now it's election of president. So it's the election to nominate him. I'll motion. Okay,
I'll second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. District clerk
Stand by for 2 seconds.
does the. And. If you get done ready.
All right.
If you guys are both re-elected, that work?
Well. I, Keith Gordon, do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New York, and faithfully discharge my duties in the office of board president according to my ability. I'll fill this out.
No, you're good. No, that's good. Can we do it for your board member too? So you're gonna be board president and board member.
Board president and board member.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now it's to you.
Now it's my floor. All right. I need, the floor is open for nominations for vice president of the Board of Education.
Nominate Max Cooley.
Got a nomination of Max Cooley on the floor.
Second.
Well, I don't know, we don't want to second it. Yeah, we're just asking for nominations.
Okay.
Then we can close nomination.
Do what Tim did to me. Is there anybody else?
Yeah.
Anybody? All right, I will close the nomination for vice president. Now I need a motion. Oh, I need a motion to close the nominations for vice president of the Board of Education.
So move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now I need a motion to elect
Motion.
the vice president. Thanks.
I'll motion. I'll
Jamie
second.
made the motion.
I'll second that.
Cheryl second. Any questions, comments, concerns with that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I, Max Cooley, do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York. That I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office of Vice President and Board Member. Education according to the best of my ability.
I'd like to do the, for our new student too. It's not on our agenda, but can I? Sarah, do you want to be a part of it? Sure. Riley, if you want to stand, raise your right hand. I, Riley Overway, do solemnly affirm that I will. Solemnly affirm. I will solemnly affirm. Solemnly affirm that I will. Support the Constitution.
That I will support the Constitution
Of the United States.
of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of New York.
and
And
the Constitution of the State of New York.
And that I will faithfully
And I will faithfully
discharge
discharge
the duties
the duties
of my office of,
office of
and what's the name of it? I'm sorry.
Ex officio student board member.
Board member.
that.
That's my ability.
The best of my ability.
All right, congratulations.
Yes.
I need a motion to appoint the officers. District Clerk Dan Winterhalter. Deputy District Clerk Dan Oldstrander. District Treasurer Dan Oldstrander. Deputy District Treasurer Brittany Scholes. Tax Collector Devin Wilson. Deputy Tax Collector Brittany Scholes.
Second.
Change with the second. Any questions, comments, concerns with that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Appointments for B, I'm not reading out all of them, so I think you guys all had time to look over them. Get a motion to make these appointments. Tim with the motion,
I'll second.
Max with the second. Any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Authorizations. Need a motion to approve the authorizations, conferences, workshops, conventions, attendance. Dr. Paige Kennard. Better Spending Cash Fund, Hard Operations Officer Aaron Ostrander. Resignation of single signature, this checks, Aaron Ostrander. Apply and sign and submit federal state grants. Dr. Paige Kennard. Approved unpaid leave of absence up to 20 days, Dr. Paige Kennard.
Motion.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments, concerns with that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Point, I need a motion to appoint the CSE and CPSC committee. Motion. Second. Second. Any questions, comments, concerns with that? All in favor?
Aye.
I have one question. How did we do the parent representative in the past?
I reach out.
Oh, you reach out? All right.
We're just waiting for a reply from, it's been pending shipment.
I assume that she'll probably say yes.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion. I need a motion to designate the educational officials. Axe with the motion.
I'll second.
Michelle with a second. Any comments, questions concerning that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to designate a voting delegate for the ACASB. Which,
Who are we designating?
yeah, that's the question.
We do it at this meeting.
Mhm.
You nominate somebody,
Alright.
or somebody volunteers.
I have historically volunteered and I do enjoy doing it. So no one else wants to do it. I'd be happy to do it again.
So that's it.
Okay.
And then there's an alternate.
Yes.
I can be the alternate. Kill two birds, one stone. So who had the motion on that?
I will though.
Good. Tim with the motion?
I'll second.
James with the second. All in favor with Michelle, Max?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Like Michelle's up again. Designate voting delegate for this.
You don't want to be on the 8.5 hour meeting that goes till 12:30 at night?
I'll wait today.
Yeah.
So I think I'm good for that.
No.
You did well on sustainability.
I need, I guess, are you interested?
Yeah, no, I'll do it if no one else is interested, certainly.
Anybody else interested? Oh, all right. Can I get a motion for Michelle and Max again? Jamie makes the motion. Second? Second. James with the second. Obviously, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, I need a motion to set the pay rates for long-term subs. I don't believe this changed at all. It was what we came up with last year, right, retreat.
A motion.
The motion,
A second.
Jim with the second. Any questions, comments, concerns on that? Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Need a motion to set the sub pay.
A motion.
I'll second.
Max with the motion. Michelle with the second. Questions, comments, concerns on that?
Sure. Comment. One of the things that I haven't had a chance to talk to Aaron about is I would suggest is that you look at doing it by the school year, not the calendar year. It really probably complicates things a little bit in the business office when different service of time overlaps in your payroll. So just something to consider.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I know where Tracy's going with this, but can we do that? Being that the calendar year and the school year can.
Most things are done by a school year versus calendar year when you're looking at salaries and everything, just like your teacher.
Right.
Staff salaries, et cetera. I think it would facilitate payroll.
And my understanding of why we did this was the increase on January 1st of minimum wage and trying to get people up, but I agree that it'd be easier to do it once.
Just food for thought.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, on that, is that gonna affect though if minimum wage goes up again?
It would give them the wage increase in July instead of. In
6 months ahead. Yeah. Really what was that?
That's definitely something we could discuss at the retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I'm not gonna read through that one either. Following resolution revenue and attended participation note. Need a motion for that.
Motion.
Only first. You know, she got the second. Any questions, comments, concerns on that wonderful reading? Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to approve the Risk Operations Center, Rick on Rock.
I'll motion.
The motion.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments, concerns on that? Favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Addendum. Pushing the consent addendum to go after this addendum, that I has a change of the letter. The consent under reorg is now L, that's gonna be M, and this new addendum item is gonna be F.
Oh, that's not done.
Yes.
I need the motion to authorize data protection officer DPO. So,
I'll second.
Tim, Michelle. Second, any questions, comments, concerns on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So consent now is M, correct?
Yes. Yes.
There's a lot of reading there too, I don't feel it. If you have any questions, time to ask. I need a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion.
James in motion. And with a second. Any questions, comments, concerns on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I need a motion to adjourn the reorg meeting.
I'll motion.
Thanks for the motion. Thanks for the second. What do you got for time, Pam?
5:48.
5:82. Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I would like to make a motion. Or I'm gonna call the regular meeting. I'm not gonna have a motion. I'm gonna call the regular meeting to order at 5:42. We have persons to address the board. Linda Warner first.
I get to go first?
Here, on top of the list.
So like I said, I know in the past, I'm here on behalf of the food stand for Alyssa Heitman. She couldn't make it. She's the coordinator. I know there's been a lot of conversation over the years, a lot of points of contention. So she wanted me to address the board. So together we kind of put a little something together, and I just typed it out rather than go off and be not organized, so might be a little unorganized anyway. Well, she said to thank the board for your time tonight. Alyssa Heitman's been the food court stand coordinator, which is very hard for me to say because everybody knows it's this senior stand forever and ever. So I'm Linda Warner, for those live streaming, can't see me but hear me. Work for Genesee Valley School. Alyssa works for Genesee Valley School. I've worked at the stand for many years myself, for my children and other children that needed. Back in the day, it was you had to work and an adult had to work in order for you to go on a senior trip. So that was a mandatory thing. So I presently, the last few years, have been the day supervisor for the stand. There's a small article in this month's Booster News. I'm not sure if you're like me, you kind of scan the Booster News and then you go back and sit and read it all. So just to give a little history of that. In the 1994 book about Allegheny County Fair, 150 Years Happy History, published by Ida Case, who is a deceased former member of Genesee Valley, Angelica, retired teacher. It's noted the food stand was built on the grounds in 1950. This replaced the food tent that we believe went back to the year 1939. It was known as the senior stand, with proceeds going towards the annual senior class trip. With the Angelica Belmont merger in 96, it became the GVCS senior stand. Today, it's simply the GV food stand, no longer restricted to incoming seniors. Well, we know why that is. It's because of the involvement has really diminished. So I'm not sure why or when the whole mandatory thing changed, but since that rule change, I honestly think that that was a slow growing lack of involvement since that rule change in the stand. I have a fear, with as many years, and I know a lot of you have been here as well, for the future of the stand. We had a food stand parent meeting June 26th. Present were 4 parents with their students, 1 student by herself, and 1 volunteer with 1 girl that just graduated. That's like the worst parent meeting we've ever had. Many of the students at work really need this fundraiser. They are not students with parents that can just write a check, which I've actually been told, why would I work up there for a week? I'll just write a check. It's so much more than that. Kids are off their phones, interacting with adults, learning how to waitress, which is a skill they'll take with them for life. And yes, learning to listen and take directions, be it the day or the night supervisor. Because at some point they will have an employer to answer to. Relationships and friendships are made, sometimes between kids that may not interact at school, like in the case of my grandson. This is kind of cute. We always do a half-hour overlap of the day and the night shift just to transition easily. So the first night, there was a girl doing dishes and her help didn't show up. So he stayed to help out. Well, the next night, he comes in on days. Again, no one shows up to help her out. So he stayed. The next night, he got a shift changed. And so that was 5 years ago, and they're still together. So they had quite a little connection. The food stand is the only fundraiser that is individually based for whoever works there, meaning the time you put in goes towards your individual account. Every other class fundraiser does not do that. Alyssa Heitman is very good at keeping track of who works when and how the shares are divided up. There are no other class fundraisers that are individually warranted. You may have 40 kids in a class, only half of them fundraise, making the class money. So if they don't fundraise at all, they go on the senior trip off the backs of their classmates that busted their butt. And this is a true happening in every class. There are some kids that don't fundraise their entire high school career, which in my opinion, it should be looked into. They never fundraise. They never make $1, but they go on the senior trip. Yes, the parents write a check, but I know that's just my opinion. That's just me. So no other class fundraiser has to pay rent. The food stand building is owned by the school district, but Allegheny County Fair Association charges rent and always has. I honestly didn't even know that until a few years ago. Last year, it was $925. This year, it's $1,125. The cost of the weekly tickets went up from $30 to $40, with the daily tickets going up as well. The class buys the tickets for the kids for the week and those that are working certain days. So with that being said, we are asking the board to have a discussion to see if they could help in any way possible with any part of the rent, just to help stave off some of the costs that they do. I personally worry about the future of the stand. Every year we have less and less involvement. As a general rule, the profits made through Thursday of the fair would take care of the startup costs and bills, with Friday and Saturday being the profit. That is diminishing as the bills and the costs go up. I fear the presence of the food stand diminishes, and at some point, sadly, the conversation will have to be had as to whether it's feasible to even continue the food stand. Alyssa would like to express her gratitude to the school as they do take care of electric, gas, operations of equipment and repairs. A huge thank you to Chris Graham and the custodial staff for all their hard work preparing the building and always being a phone call away. And John Werner last year in his building trades class, who made the much needed repairs to the building that literally kept us open last year with the roof leaking. The health department said if it doesn't get fixed, we're shutting you down. I want to publicly commend Alyssa Heitman. She has been an asset to this stand, going above and beyond her duties to make sure everything goes smoothly. We all know when she takes something on, she gives it her all. She is coordinating, ordering basically everything you would have to run a restaurant for a week in a few months' time. So thank you for your time. And the profits from Friday and Saturday, I'm thinking, like we talked about it last year. And we know that through Thursday paid for, their ordering and their everything that they pay for. This pays the school back. I know you guys front the money. There's health department paperwork. She does all of that. We put an ad in the Booster News, any alumni, anybody actually that wanted to help out this year, because a couple weeks before school, she wasn't really sure we'd have enough. It's going to be tough, but I think we'll be able to do it. But every year it gets harder and harder. And owning the building and not the land is, we're just open to whatever they want to charge.
I believe the rent on the land that includes the electric and the water. Yeah, so I mean, I know the biggest thing that we've been discussing for the last year, the reason we went that way of making the GD stands instead of a senior stand, because kids just said, well, I'm not going to my senior trip then. They just assume not, if I'm forced to work, I'm not going on my senior trip.
And I do know because of the lack of involvement, you had to open it up.
Right.
You opened it up to incoming ninth graders right up through, and it's still a struggle.
Right.
So that's my fear. And the only ones that are going to be upset about it, I think alumni, Angelica graduates.
Well, for sure, past alumni, that's a big thing. A lot of them just come down just to eat the senior stand.
Right. And they still do we got a 90-year-old person last year. Oh my gosh, it's still here. And I mean, the Wellsville newspaper did an article, came in and said, like, this is the only building you can come in and sit down and have a decent meal. And the meals are decent. They come in out of the rain. I mean, it's always been a great thing, but yeah, the future is.
Well, I'd like to discuss the fair board, and I'll take it upon myself just to see about at least the passes. I think if we could just get some passes that were enough for, say, 10, 15 people for one shift, and then just change passes out. I mean, because they're not riding rides, they're not doing anything, they're working there. So if you're paying for them to come in to work at their own building, it makes absolutely no sense to me.
And we have done that too on the fly, because they don't like you doing that.
Right.
But then the kids would just hand up there, like we have some kids at work, Wednesday and Friday. So they would only get the day passes, but the ones that are going all week,
Right.
then she'll get the.
And to me, that's a cost that really shouldn't be involved, because they're not actually using the fairgrounds as a recreation or anything. They're going to work. So I'm
Right.
paying to go work. I don't know, the fair board, I can speak with them and see. I mean, that's something we might be able to work on.
And I don't know if it's the same rent for everybody that's up there that has a spa. I'm not sure about that.
I'm not sure either. I know we're the only ones that own the building. I know.
I don't think there was anything up there from 1939 other than a tent,
Grandstands.
grandstand, yeah. So I mean, it's unfortunate. I know the board has discussed, previous boards have discussed where the whole standing is going. And honestly, as an alumni, it is hard to see the lack of involvement, but then at some point, when your profits are going into Friday night, you have Saturday, when does it not become a reality? Is it, why are you doing it?
And I
Yeah, and I got that.
I think that's something we discuss every year. I know since I've been on board for 10 years and if we take the chance of closing it, but we always said if we can make some sort of profit and keep everybody happy, that's fine. We're not gonna get rich off it.
The profits have been really pretty good.
Last couple of years, they've been
23, 24, there was, I think it was, well, I think 32,000 were the costs. And I'm sorry, the total they took in was 30,839. Minus the bills were 23,000. So 23, 24, they had a 7,600 and change profit. Last year was really good. And the kids, and I wish the kids could see, it's fun. It's so much more than just giving a week up of your time. I mean, that's why I go up there. I love the kids. I love interacting with the kids. So it is a lot of work. Last year, the total bills were 34,372. The bills came to 23,295. There was an $11,000 profit for 2 days. Because we know last year we went to Thursday and paid all those bills. And then the profits came in those last 2 days. And some of these kids can't afford to write a check for their senior trip, parents can't.
I don't think they do. They haven't got volunteer hours for that, correct?
Yes, they do.
They do get
Yes.
volunteer hours.
Yeah, because they
On
would.
top.
Community service. Yeah,
Yeah.
if they're not, like, if they're going into ninth grade, we have a couple of kids this year, actually. They're going into ninth grade, but they're not 14. So they all have to have working cards. So if they're not 14, but they're in ninth grade, they can get community service hours, which we do that. Yeah, I think more kids need to know, like, some of these kids work the fair stand, they pay for nothing on their senior trip. I mean, the individual accounts are amazing for these profits. And then the less kids you have, the more money they're gonna have in it. Last year,
When did the mandate change?
I don't know. I can't ever remember that.
Probably 5 years, 6 years. No.
The mandatory
Yeah, I was
having to work, it was before I came on as.
It probably changed when
It was a-
society started changing and they say you can't make my child work there. That's,
It was when it. Before I came on the board, but I think it was still maybe around the merger time, somewhere in there.
Cause I think it was still mandatory when I went in 2008. That's what I was wondering. I didn't know.
it was mandatory after the merge. I just don't know when it changed. Yeah.
For parents too, I feel like.
Mhm.
One's really fun.
It used to be you and two parents. Now, and then it was you and one parent, and now it's just you, and if you have somebody, it puts more into your individual account. Like I've worked for kids before I started supervising that didn't have a parent or an adult, and so that went towards their account.
Do we have a pulse on how it would be received if it was mandatory again?
I don't think.
I don't know. I don't think at this point you'd have parents coming out of the woodwork saying, you're not making me or my kid work that, because that's just society in general. It just used to be a different bird, and it did.
We discussed this because I brought it up many times. Like when I graduated from Angelica, that was a requirement. Both my parents had to work. I had to work if I was going to see your trip.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen nowadays. No matter what we do, always going to.
And I know, I'm sure Chris can speak to the cost of, keeping it up. I know it's
It's costly.
a money pit.
There's no doubt about it, but I guess I'm just trying to get what the questions she's asking. What does she ask?
Just help towards
I
the,
think, and I said this when I found out a couple of years ago, and I think I was still board president, I went to our fire superintendent and asked I feel that that's a responsibility of the district, not the kids, to pay that rent.
Well, and that's why Alyssa said, all these other fundraisers that these kids have, you're just selling beef sticks. You know, this fundraiser is more than that. You're
Oh, yeah.
paying out a lot more. You're paying for, you know, the rent that, you know, a lot of people don't
In
even
the
know.
grand scheme of things, $1,100 is a,
Well, I think that's something that Pam could put out for the retreat too.
yeah.
Because what you're missing is student participation.
Yeah.
You know, so I was gonna suggest perhaps if you could form a student committee that would advisors, like somebody that has leadership skills in their classes, maybe they could help brainstorm
We
something.
visited every class, every homeroom class.
Yep.
Every 9 through,
Alyssa came to
11
our
class.
meeting,
Yes.
begging for kids.
and that was
Kids signed up.
towards the end of the school year. It wasn't early in the school year, so they'd forget about it. It was at the end of the school year just to try to get that involvement. But kids just don't want to do it. So it's unfortunate.
Do the other schools rent their buildings then that they sell food?
Oliver Richford.
Friendship is up there. I don't know if Oliver Richford was there last year. Friendship is still going.
Yeah, Oliver.
Yeah, I think we're
They
there.
were there last year.
Yeah.
But Friendship does it every year as well. That's just to come in and sit on a stool.
Yeah, the fair actually owns it. They rent the spot.
The $10 ticket increase, paying rent.
Well, and their menu is nothing like what our menu is. I mean, people come to this, well, not senior stand, the food stand because of the meals. They're amazing. And Alyssa has done so much with it. She's reevaluated what works, what doesn't work. The Wednesday is kids' night. She does a kids' meal. You know, Alyssa, she just goes in full hog. She's done great.
Well, thank you, and Melissa. Definitely we'll speak about it here at the retreat.
Thank you for listening.
All right, Ronnie Tilton, you're up for the class 2026 senior trip.
No, I don't want to stand in front of the camera. Donna wanted me to apologize. She couldn't make it tonight. She's used to the board meetings being on Tuesday. And when I messaged her, I'm like, hey, remember it's tonight. She's like, I'm like, it's okay. It's all good. But yeah, just to piggyback on what Linda was talking about, I'm class advisor for the class of 2026. Kids graduate next year. I have 3 kids that have worked the food stand the last 2 summers and they have enough money to pay their senior trip. I think we have 39 students in the class now, and out of the 39, for 3 years of fundraisers, maybe Riley, Rockstar, maybe 12 have participated in one out of the whole class.
Mhm.
And it's even like, okay, I'll buy the first place the $75 Dunkin' card, or like I've offered prizes and whatever, and there's just no motivation. So, and we did invite Alyssa. She came to our class, our advisement meeting in May. She talked to the kids. She told them what the opportunities were, how much they could make, and they're like, okay, anybody want the paperwork? Nope. So, yeah. Anyways, to piggyback on that. So, the reason I'm here is to see if we can get thumbs up for the senior trip next year. And from what I understand, it's way early, but the place that the kids have voted on to go to blocks out, certain weeks or days in June every year for class trips, and they book up really quick. So the classes poor. Thank heavens for the vending machine, because if it wasn't for the junior class getting the vending machine, Donna and I were like, maybe like we could go to Funland and get pizza, because that was like how much, it's funny, but it's not funny, right?
Mhm.
So we're sitting at a little under, I think, 11,000 after prom expenses and everything come out. And that's for 3 years of fundraising. A little over 5 of that is just from the vending machine. So you can see where we're going with this, right? This class is poor. So at our advisement meeting in May, I had talked to quite a few of the kids and I'm like, give me some ideas, what you want to do. Did some research, had like 5 options, a place in West Virginia, Poconos, Adirondacks, whatever. And one of the options is Rocking Horse Ranch. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, in Highland, New York. A little ways from Poughkeepsie, about an hour west of the Hudson River. And one of the options is Rocking Horse Ranch in Highland, New York. A little ways from Poughkeepsie, about an hour west of the Hudson River. but that's what they voted on. So we met with Sarah and she was like, sounds good. And she kind of gave us the dates that will work in next June around regions and CTE and all of that. So I called Kristen, who's the gal I've been working with. She blocked those dates out for us just for a real short period of time. She's like, I need approval. I need to know, we need a deposit. I'm like, okay, I'll get on the board meeting. So that's why I'm here tonight. I didn't have anything to show you, but this place is phenomenal. I have a couple handouts you guys can share to look at. There's literally, there is literally something like for everything. It's all-inclusive resort. One of the things that was really a win for the kids, especially the boys, because it's all you can eat. Like all your meals are provided. They're like, oh, let's go. So they do, it's not just like fast food. They have like a whole chef and whatever. They do also cater to, we have some kids in the class with gluten and some food allergies. They accommodate all of that. Everything at the resort is included in the cost. Working with the girl, we're looking at $350, maybe closer to $400, depending on taxes and all that stuff. But it would be 3 full days, so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And what we were hoping to get the approval to do would be to leave like at 3 or 4 in the morning on Sunday, so we could arrive on property when things open. We wouldn't be able to check into our rooms until that afternoon, but we have full use of the facilities all day Sunday, all day Monday, and then all day Tuesday. We would have to check out Tuesday, but we could stay, eat, the kids could do whatever, and then drive home Tuesday night. So that's what we're looking at. Some of the things there, just so you know, they have Boulder Bay Water Park. They have El Dorado Hot Springs, which is like a water park, but hot tub kind of thing. Everything, by the way, is fenced in and secure. The entire property is secure. They do have security agents or security officers. They also provide for senior trips. They provide hall security at night. So like the chaperones can sleep. They put all of your class in the same block. Everybody gets a colored wristband. So they know like, oh, you're a GB kid, you should be here now or whatever. Very, very organized. They have indoor, outdoor pools, mountain tubing, horseback riding, 500 acres of trails, 119 horses, fishing, kayaks, paddle boats, canoes, banana boats, bungee jumping, rock climbing, hiking, basketball, volleyball, baseball, softball, mini golf, shuffleboard, bocce ball, horseshoes, an full indoor arcade, video game, shooting gallery, archery range, mini bowling, fitness centers, you name it, they have it. After the supper hour, they do karaoke. They have several outdoor bonfire pits for like s'mores. They do night laser tag. Like she said, when kids go home, they're just, number 1, exhausted. Number 2, they want to come back. So, basically we just need, we don't have to do itinerary. I can have kids come and present, at a later time. I couldn't get any of the kids to come tonight, but we just need the thumbs up that you don't think it's going to be an issue, so I can send this gal a deposit. If for some reason something were to happen, she said it would be refundable. And when we asked how many kids thought they were going to go, I think we had like 15 or 16 maybe. Of course, you know how it works. As time gets closer, they're like, oh yeah, I want to go now. But as long as we send a deposit, if we have to add more rooms, we can do that. Another thing about the rooms is nobody shares a bed. The rooms accommodate 4 students, 2 queen beds, and then bunk beds. So you'd have 4 kiddos in a room, but no one on top of the covers, under the covers, all that stuff. If anybody has any questions? I'll try to answer.
Again,
What's that?
what was the dates you were?
June 14th, which is Sunday, and then through the 16th. So it'd be 3 full days and just 2 nights.
15th and 16th next year are the last 2 full days of school.
Oh, okay.
So, and then the CTE graduation next year, because of Juneteenth, is actually Thursday, the 18th. So I tried to put it before Regents
Yep.
start and, avoiding the CTE graduation.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And they actually usually stop like the week before these dates, but she said because the difference in the New York schedule and whatever that, her people said they could accommodate them those days.
Well, I know this is typically a lot earlier for us.
Oh, yeah.
What Ronnie had reached out and stated that they needed, to,
Mhm.
if they wanted this place, they gotta get the money, at least a deposit in.
Right.
So I asked her, excuse me, to come to the board. Just so we could, we don't currently have a superintendent right now, sorry. Tracy. At the time, we didn't. First time she said that. But, no, seriously, I just thought it'd be good for the board to hear exactly what we're thinking and, then Ronnie had mentioned that she could bring students in later on in the year to show things are going on.
Right, and the girl there who does the classes, like she does the full itinerary. So you can have groups of kids, at certain places. After the time gets closer, the kids could sign up. Everything pretty much is whenever you want to do it, with the exception of banana boats need like scheduled times, and then the horseback riding needs scheduled times. But, she said as we would get closer to the actual travel days, we would communicate with her, and she literally takes care of the itinerary. She takes care of the security, everything, and it's all included in the price.
So, Ms. Superintendent, how would we handle this? Would this be a motion to allow her to pay that, or is this just the approval of the board to put a
Yeah,
deposit?
just approve the trip. So like, if you're looking, if you're ready to approve the trip, we could do that. We can go back retroactively and get it, but, and then that would allow her to do the points that she needs to do.
I think we've done this in the past. Yeah, said, yeah, we're good. We're all good.
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah,
put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
right,
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, if you need it now, you need it now.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she won't be able to hold the spots. I really had to sweet talk her to get her to hold the spots till like the middle of July. She's like, okay, because they have a waiting list.
I'm fine with her calling tomorrow and saying, yeah, we're good.
So I guess I'll just do a straw vote, then we'll put it on there. Does anybody have objection with her reaching out and putting deposit
Not
down?
at all.
So it's gonna be supported by the board. I want to come back and then the board members say, no, we're not supporting it. They already got a deposit. So-
No.
And it is reimbursable, which is good.
Yeah.
Just, that kind of straw vote that we say,
Mhm.
and then you can just put it on the agenda the next time.
Okay.
You good with that? sir?
Yes, and if we could maybe put it on the agenda in September, I just think maybe student involvement.
Sure.
Increase if it's during the school year.
Oh, okay.
That sounds perfect.
All
I
right.
appreciate it very, very
Thank
much.
Yeah, thanks, Ronnie.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
It does.
Where's the
I did.
It's talking point.
Your brother-in-law good.
I'm gonna look at this.
Okay, good work.
All right. I need a motion to approve the minutes from from June 11th.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Ooh, yeah. So excited about seeing the trip.
I know, you want to share? I'll get you a laser tag. Don't forget.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, any board committee reports? Has there been any committee? Sorry.
Seems like they've all been canceled.
Seems like we missed a lot of committees.
We had an athletic.
Did. All right.
Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything noteworthy reporting now, maybe help out here.
Just a couple coaches' concerns and I think it's sort of worked itself out. There's one coach, they didn't have a choice. That person is kind of gonna be the coach again, so. See how next season turns out.
There was a vacancy for the JV boys soccer, but that got filled, so. On the agenda.
There are some vacancies, but it's winter and spring, so we can fill those at a later time. But it gives them, and they were gonna have a conversation with the one coach of concern, and it was really about not doing stuff in the off season and trying to encourage that.
I know probably made their policy committee probably got a little bit. We didn't really have a meeting, but myself and Michelle have talked back and forth, and I think she's included me on some different stuff, but when I bring it up at the retreat or an executive session.
Yeah, no, I, I don't think there's anything major to necessarily talk about. I think I was just looking at the proposed meeting dates, which thanks to whoever looking around, I'm not sure who proposed that, but that's great.
These here.
Yeah,
That would be Dr. Kennard.
thank you, Dr. Kennard. I certainly don't mind. I know that we didn't have an opportunity to talk about at least one policy that I thought maybe, should probably be in effect before the school year. I can always have a conversation with someone about that. So I just didn't know if that is important, if maybe we would want to meet before the October 20th date, whoever's on the policy committee or, and it's just one, then I think we could wait till October. I'm saying we, because I'm, nominating myself for the policy committee again too, so that I'm not volunteered for it. But yeah, that was my only comment about that, and I should share more.
And Michelle brought it up earlier to me privately, but the only policy or the only committee we did not,
It's on back.
it's on the back,
So Pam is so great about sending us all of these emails, and I realized that you can't send really large emails from Genesee Valley, even to internal people.
That's why you'll have attachment 2, 1 of 3, 2
Yeah.
of 3, 3 of 3.
Yeah.
I can't do them all.
Well, I don't know what happened this time, Pam, but I did see like the second page of this. So I'm like, oh, what happened to a couple committees, but they're on back. So we're good. So
yes.
Go back, the one other thing we talked about was the athletics meeting, thousand point banner, possibly being hung up in the gym. It'd be just for Genesee Valley, because it's hard to trace back too far into the Belmont Angelica days. There's a little worry of it maybe being controversial because there's not something for other sports being hung up too, but it's a fairly common practice. A lot of gymnasiums around seem to have it, so I think it was tentatively
Yeah, I think
confirmed, but they were gonna talk about it a little more.
the biggest concern, and I think it's more with us than Belfast, is that at some point along the way, I think when I was playing, when everybody here pretty much was playing, at some point, books were turned in at the end of a season. Coach's responsibility to tally everything up and, this person had this many points, this person had this many assists. Somewhere along the way that stopped, and some books they can't find because we're guessing old coaches have them, and being able to
Verified.
verify the information
Yeah.
is crucial when you're putting that kind of stuff up. And getting back to the practice where Reagan and Mary were on board, getting back to where we have the books turned in after each season. So that go back, we can look and say, yeah, this person, even though mom and dad said they have 1,000 points, they actually had 1,002 because
I guess I didn't realize that was happening.
well, and that's a lot of that, I think, is coming from Reagan and what she's been able to find in that, so.
Well, and they brought up other sports too,
Mhm.
like.
Yeah, baseball, and-
Strikeouts.
yeah.
That's where it
It's like
got,
how far are you gonna go, making banners in the gym for
I know,
announcements for sports?
I know there was one mention. That's kind of personal to me, but
Yeah.
it's a state record for most home runs in a game.
Yeah. And that's something that could be verified.
And he still holds the
Yeah.
record. I think that is a banner that should be hung in there. I mean, that's
Mhm.
pretty good for GB to have an athlete to hit most home runs in one game for the whole state, so.
Yeah.
His last name happens to be Gordon, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, and that's where I think Matt's just touching on it, that where do you draw the line, or how far do we go in getting,
Well, I would think state records and 1,000
Mhm.
points and stuff like that. I mean,
you have coaches that are really good like Doug,
Right.
that kept records of all of his track athletes over the years. He did that as a coach. With the baseball one, I was there for that game. I can attest that he did it. And I looked at the state records, and yeah, he's one of a couple people that have done that. But it's having, and I think the concern was just having parents come forward saying, hey, my kid's hitting 800, strikeouts or whatever.
come up with something and then you're consistent and you stick with it.
Right. Like, and that's the thing, and not to take anything away, because I truly believe that he did break the record, but, you know, Cody going back and being able to track those books and every point that he scored, just so we could verify that.
All right, and I guess that's something you just have to move forward with that.
Yeah.
Committee would, you know.
It's not, and it's not done yet, so I mean, we can revisit it. It's just something that was discussed.
Yeah.
Kind of tentatively confirmed, but further discussion. I agree, that's.
Thank you. Financial reports.
So we're just busy wrapping up the school year still. Our audit is scheduled for next week, so that's always a busy time for us. We're getting them all the information they need, so that's pretty much where we're at as of now. Future meetings, you know, they'll come out and speak to you and where we end up financially. I think we're in pretty good shape.
All right.
One more thing, I did, complete interviews for the cafeteria manager, and I'll be just discussing that further in executive session.
That's what I was gonna tell you, the personnel.
I know,
Too many things going on. Well, we plan to make all this money. I need a motion to approve my treasury report. Get James a motion.
A second,
James with a second. She got beat you 10.
that's fine.
Any questions, comments, concerns with them? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I need a motion to approve the warrant reports.
I'll motion.
Second.
So, a second. Any questions, comments, concerns with that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's snoop here real quick. Do you want to have Mike speak before we do this next one?
He didn't ask us here for questions, just a little bit question.
Oh,
So I will move it.
all right, go ahead.
I'll second.
Then, Joe, second. Any
And
questions?
then we can ask Michael.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
Ask away. I can give you a quick update.
Yes, that'd be great.
Start with that, and then if you have questions on that, I'm happy. So, so we went out to bid for the capital project. The first time we were out, we had very little participation.
And this is for the air handlers and all.
This is for your capital project part.
This is
capital project. Capital project, this is like, site work, site building, all that type of stuff. Very little, interest and it was really the schedule. The schedule is what had them worried. So, about a week or so before bid opening, we changed the schedule. And we pushed it off after a conversation with Chris, we pushed it off to, hey, we can do this in September and after that. And that really worked. So we ended up getting, some good participation on the GC side. Not so much on the plumbing and the HVAC and zero on the electrical. So first time around, no electrical bid, one plumbing, two HVAC and four GC. So we were somewhat optimistic, higher than we thought in terms of the bid. So we turned right around, put the electrical bid back out. I just made some calls. I thought I stirred a bunch of interest up. We only got one out of Elmira, John Mills Electric. They gave us a bid higher than we anticipated. So currently, our budget higher in our budget than what we wanted. Okay. So we had a conversation with Tracy and Chris last week discussing, what makes sense to do here. What can we eliminate or what can we adjust? And there was conversation on the storage building and really the need of that storage building on what it's become now. I mean, it started off as a storage building. It kind of morphed into more of a building trades type storage and kind of a catch-all of everything. So, after that conversation, it was thought that maybe we should remove the storage building from this project. And so that's kind of where we're sitting now. Looking to go back out to bid. It's gonna take us a couple weeks to modify the documents and stuff like that. So we're looking to have that done by July 28th. Go out to bid the month of August, and then be back here with you in September to award. Kind of where we're at right now.
Your storage building was not eatable
Right,
items.
right.
And, Mr. Graham reached out to me and had a conversation.
Yeah.
And he believed the same thing I did, that Mary does. I think that was more about a lot than it is a need, because the fact is, we don't have that program anymore, so
Right.
that pretty much eliminates the idea of that being the needed facility.
Yep.
I certainly didn't have an objection to trying to take it out.
No,
The
Not at
belief
all.
is eliminating the building will keep us in the budget because the electrical's up.
It will. That storage building, it seemed like everything we touched, it was more. So when we did, when we test the soil was garbage. We had to basically remove all the soils when we built that building. So the whole entire perimeter of that building, the whole footprint, all the soils got to come out and new have to go in. It put us over the stormwater. We evaluated your existing stormwater. That building put us over that. So we had to, include underground stormwater. So that will no longer be needed. The electric to the bus garage, right? We were feeding that building from the bus garage. We had to up the
Mhm.
service of the bus garage. So it seemed like everywhere.
Yeah, I think it's just- yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be a considerable amount of savings, for the budget.
And kind of like Chris said to me, on this side, you're pulling into this beautiful place, thinking you got all storage built.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, like,
Yep.
that's gotta count for something. And I know the numbers I got with electric, that's just crazy.
Oh.
I hope we're not even gonna, that's just ridiculous.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Was that even, it's not even close to kind of,
So I.
did we underestimate by that much, or is it more of just like?
All of the above. I think there was some underestimating. I think, and then the environment right now, there's definitely inflation in terms of, cost for product, materials, I should say. And then there's, we're the only bidder. I called them to scope and I said, I don't know where this cost is coming from. And I really couldn't get a straight answer. He told me, oh, well, we got about 400,000 in quoted items. I said, okay, well, where's this other 600,000? You telling me 600,000 in labor, and he didn't really want to answer that. So there's, for what it's worth,
That was my concern, electric stuff has gone up, so, I mean, my life, but that's crazy, but when compared to that difference, I'm like, nah, not quite. There's somebody's trying to dish some money out of there, but I appreciate it. though.
Yeah, so the letter that I sent you, I think is part of your resolution, is a letter to reject all bids.
Yeah.
Right, reject them all and pull that scope out of the documents and then go ahead and rebuild.
And-
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, so we had Tim and Michelle, the motion to reject all capital project bids. Favor? Opposed? Motion. You're good, if you want to head out, buddy.
Thanks, Mike.
All that.
Peter, dude.
You didn't.
I didn't say-
No, you can't.
I'm just gonna walk them out.
Thank you. Sorry to get a chance to get earlier.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Mike.
Great night.
Thank
All right. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Thanks for the motions.
I'll second.
So second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion. On personnel. Oh, there are addendums, isn't there?
No.
Checking.
Just under information.
Under personnel, I need a motion to amend the motion for the change of effective date for June 24th to June 26th for Mandy. Right?
Miranda.
I'll second.
Max. Michelle, second. Any questions, comments, concerns with that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I need another motion to amend the motion to change the effective date July 1st to July 2nd for Raleigh Duttweiler's position.
I'll motion.
Sean with the motion,
Second.
James with the second. Any questions, comments, concerns with that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Let's go again with another motion to amend the motion. Amendment to the employee agreement for Dr. Bacon or
So moved.
I'll second.
any questions, comments, concerns on that? Thank you, Paige,
Yes.
on that. Any? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to abolish art teacher position. Max with the motion,
Second.
James with the second. Questions, comments, concerns with that?
I'd just like to make a comment if I may.
Mhm.
So because her resignation is not effective until July 25th, that means that the other teacher who would have been reduced because of like a seniority remains on the Pell list until after that date. So she's not actually taken off the Pell list and put in this position until after this date because there is no existing position to fill at this point, just so everybody understands that. Yeah, so you'll have on the next board meeting, sure that we have it remedied.
Gotcha.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, I need a motion to accept the resignation of Sabrina Weshy, the special education teacher.
Motion.
Got James with a motion,
I'll second.
Michelle with a second. Any questions, comments, concerns with that? I have a question. Talking, so now if we go on to this again, and we have to fill that position, that person can't be employed until after August 24th.
Correct. And she continues to get health insurance until then, even though she's not performing any service to the district.
Been through a lot of this last couple days.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess we'll talk about that in executive session.
Yeah, I think that's better.
All right, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed? Motion carried. I need to approve a motion for long-term teacher aide. Caitlin Sands.
Question?
We got a
I'll
James
second.
and Michelle. Any questions, comments, concerns with that? All in favor?
Hey.
One. I need a motion to approve long-term teacher aide Sabrina Harrington.
I'll motion.
Max with the motion,
I'll second.
Michelle with the second. Any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I need a motion to approve long-term teacher aide Taylor. Oh,
That's all.
Oh.
There you go.
There we go. I know I got it. I'll never get that.
I'll motion.
Motion. Max for the second. Any questions with Taylor Hall? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right, I need a motion to approve long-term teacher aide Caitlin Mears. Neary?
Nary's.
Larry.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Tim. Michelle, any questions, comments with Caitlin Neary? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I need a motion to approve long-term teacher aide Rachel Drake.
No motion.
Second. James the second. Any questions, comments, concerns of Rachel? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I need a motion to approve long-term teacher aide Haley Walt.
I'll motion. I'll second.
Bill, Jamie,
Jamie first, he second.
huh?
Jamie can have first, I'll be second.
All right.
That's all right.
Jamie with the motion, Michelle the second. Any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. L, approve long-term teacher aide Cynthia Shipman. Tim, motion.
Second.
James, Michelle, second. Any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Same one.
I need a motion to approve the leave of absence for Cynthia Shipman.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Michelle, with the motion. Jamie, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And appoint the 2025-26 school year coaches.
So move.
It's quick.
I'll second.
James, you was second. Any questions, comments, concerns on that?
I thought in the past, if there was multiple coaches that applied at the end, we had interviews for them. Not just appointed the last coach for the previous year.
Only if there was concerns with the coach of the city, I believe.
I know that there is a concern with the coach at City. There still was an interview process done.
I don't know that. Everybody,
I think we should, I
did interview everybody over again.
think we should have brought that up at the committee meeting.
I think we did. Multiple coaches put in for several positions and that they said, Belfast said that they were gonna do interviews for them.
Then I would assume they did, and this is where we,
Yeah, I didn't hear.
When I get this list, I'm assuming that they, as an ADs, have done
I
their job.
trust that Reagan did everything she said she was going to.
I guess my concerns with Shaw,
Mm-hmm,
if there was a questionable coach on here
mm-hmm.
and there wasn't an interview with somebody else put it on.
Well, and that's the thing, without Reagan being here, I would hate to question what Reagan did.
No, I have faith. in
Cause
Reagan.
I, yeah,
I'm not saying that, but was it Reagan or was it Belfast?
I would, her and Mary don't miss a beat. I mean,
Okay.
I would think that Reagan would be aware that was the case, because the interviews are both of those guys are involved.
My understanding of it, I'll speak to it a little bit, is that we moved to a process to where if there's a red flag, then that would constitute an interview. And the concerns that were brought up, I didn't think any of them
Right,
viewed as red flag.
right.
So that's why it didn't necessarily come to interviews. If there was an interview that was conducted or planned to be conducted, I didn't hear anything about it in that.
Neither. And I thought there was going to be interviews for a couple of positions.
Well, my concern is that if there is going to be an interview, that the athletic committee from GB has to be a part of it.
Mhm.
It's not just Belfast doing their interviews.
Yeah.
Well, and then I would agree. Which I'm assuming Reagan took care of that, and if there wasn't interviews, then again,
Right.
I don't want to question Reagan.
No, I'm not trying to question her either, but
Yeah.
we gotta make sure we're on the same page here, because
Right.
that's the way it was written out.
Right.
Was, our athletic director and our athletic committee will interview along with Belfast's athletic director and committee for a position.
Yeah, we can,
I see Sean's concern, and
Mhm.
if he's heard different, then maybe we'll look into it, but I guess.
we can ask, but I don't think there was. Interviews.
Okay.
I don't think there was interviews.
I don't think they held any interviews. I don't remember them saying in the committee meeting that they were gonna hold interviews.
I'm just gonna go on the faithful part.
Delegates meeting tonight.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Right there tomorrow.
That's why they're on tonight, but I mean, prove the fall coaches in.
Mhm.
If it's not a fall coach, take off the winter
Not a
coaches
fall
and spring and table it.
I'm gonna ask that we table this and talk about it in executive, and that way maybe we can find out between now and the end of the executive session, what happened.
Jackson, do we have to make a motion? to say it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
I'll
Tim,
make the motion to table.
Tim made a motion to table this for executive session. Do I get a second?
I'll second.
Michelle with a second. All in favor?
I,
Okay. So we. Guess we can do. Coming board meetings, information and discussion, right?
Mhm.
And then the addendum is for information and discussion. Is that just two of them?
There's two added on to the list that's already on your agenda.
All right. Information and discussion, upcoming board meetings. Go ahead, superintendent.
Right, wow. Tuesday, July 22nd, you're gonna have the Board of Education work session. However, I'm gonna recommend that you also come out of the work session for a regular meeting or just change it to a regular meeting. Because, and I can share with you some of the reasons if I'm invited into executive session, there are some personnel items that need to be addressed that you would need to do.
Okay.
So you'd have to have an action agenda. Do you want me to keep reading them, or you just want
Yes.
to explain that one?
Well,
Do-
you are the
okay.
superintendent. That's what Brian always did.
Okay, all right, well, I guess I'm learning my role. So Tuesday, the 19th of August, you'll have a 5:30 regular board meeting, as well as on Tuesday, September 9th, a regular education board meeting. Just for some informational and discussion, you have a thank you note from the class of 2026. Don't know if I've seen that, but I think we got it. All right.
Already.
So you guys already know what
Yep.
that is, all right? And then there's a draft of committee meetings for 25-26. I know Michelle mentioned perhaps entertaining a meeting for the policy committee prior to October. It's something that you can discuss with Dr. Kennard. And then the July 22nd meeting, which is redundant for me to just tell you again, but we're need to have a regular meeting on that day as well.
We gotta go to the addendum.
Oh, I didn't print that off. I
Okay.
apologize.
Oh, yeah.
So change the reorg consent agenda from L to letter M.
No, just the information discussion.
I'm so sorry.
You're fine, yes, you should.
All right. Yeah, and in the other meetings I've had, I always read all the motions, so this is like, I feel like I'm on vacation. The informational and discussion, about the non-resident student tuition and a retreat date. So,
So we'll start off with that, with information session. We'll start off with, let's go with the retreat date first to get that figured out. I'm thinking somewhere in August, and then Dr. Paige Kennard will be fully involved. Does anybody want to throw a date out there and go from there, or?
Are we doing this like we have in the past, just a one day or all day? Like we did last year?
I think so. I think we can get, I was just gonna suggest the beef house, because it's got the upstairs meeting room. We could have that like we did with Italia, we just switch things up.
I'm on vacation the 11th to the 17th.
You're on vacation 11th through 17th. Well, that's out.
And the 4th and the 5th.
You're out the fourth and the fifth, so that's out,
I think I'm out to 6th and 7th.
so that's out.
So we're looking at 18th, 19th.
August 18th.
I'm gone.
Well, I think isn't the 19th.
It's on the 18th, 19th.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
18th and 19th, I'll be gone.
You'll be gone what?
Well, the 13th through the 19th, so.
So you're looking at
Can we do the 8th on a Friday and then I'll just take an extra day on my vacation?
It works for me.
The 8th.
It works for me.
Throughout the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 18th and 19th.
The only thing I've got is the 9th and 10th, which is a weekend.
What's that?
I'm good. I'm good for the 8th.
The 8th.
well, Pam,
My wife's birthday.
What's that?
the 8th.
August?
Yep,
It's my wife's birthday.
the 8th.
Yeah, she gave a thumbs up.
She's good.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna make next week. That's our annual vacation, so I didn't know we had. Just
Friday.
fix now.
August 8th?
Yeah.
Does that work? Buddy, Dad?
I'll make it work. I got a meeting with your wonderful, teams meeting with your wonderful governor, but I'll make it work.
You won't know you're not there.
You won't. I'm one of 5,000 people sitting there, but she won't know me. She won't recognize what he's missing.
So the 8th at the Beef House?
Yep.
What time? Bright and early?
Yeah, with what we want to get through. I'd say 8:30.
Time did you guys go last year?
8:30.
Okay,
Yeah.
just curious what time they open, so.
Yeah.
We didn't do the beef house.
No, we didn't.
No.
I'm pretty sure we could get it all done.
Oh, you have connections, don't you?
The 8th at 8:30.
8:30.
8:30. But let my connection know that.
Did, I know in the past. And it was a way to. It being the retreat and team building that was. Having spouses. Significant others come in the evening for the. Dinner. Do we want to do that again?
I don't see why not, if you guys would like. After the meeting, have dinner and those that like to participate. In drinks, we can have some drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Mandatory.
I know Pam and Aaron. Craig. Dr. Kennard, do you want Sarah and Sarah? That's something the board has to discuss. We can talk that over and invite them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it will depend on what we have for a.
Yeah, we got fun.
I think a lot of it's gonna depend on what we have for an agenda,
Right.
and a lot of it, I know, to this point has been
Superintendent.
superintendent related,
Yeah.
trying to get that bond formed, so maybe,
Yeah.
We do
Oh,
something.
we're gonna do the capital project to get up to speed on all.
Yeah, right.
Takes short time.
I know, and that's what, I just want to make sure that we have enough time to talk about all the things we want to, because I feel like the last 2 years, I would almost rather have a working dinner and not invite my spouse. if
okay,
it meant-
I'm good with that too.
Well, I don't know, but if we're gonna have Hunt come, then I feel like that's gonna.
I just threw it out there. We don't have to do that.
I
I know there's just a lot.
We can do that at a different time, we can do that around Christmas.
Yeah, you can do that anytime you want.
This is live. I don't want Nick to think I'm not inviting him, but I just want to make sure.
It's off now.
My spouse is gonna be there anyway, so.
No, well, I just am thinking if we think, obviously, Dr. Kennard's, new to the school.
Mhm.
got
And there's-
Relationship
Yeah.
before, so I didn't know if it might just be helpful for us to be able to continue conversations.
I
and
think
just-
you're right.
Could we, maybe like we invite like Sarah, just have people come like just in the morning or something, they don't have to stay the whole day, and then we'd have a whole afternoon.
That would be helpful for.
Yeah.
her, like,
Yeah, with all of that.
certain portions that.
I think let's form the agenda and then we
Yeah.
can figure out who needs to be there.
Obviously, we should ask if you're interested.
I'm going to do something, having, yes.
And I do believe that we're gonna talk about capital project, we'll have Chris Graham in for a half hour, so.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Absolutely.
Plan the morning for some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then it'll be us, the superintendent.
We need to start working on the agenda. Okay, then we'll decide.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, that sounds good. Now,
I don't think that we have to go into executive.
All right, let's discuss it then. We're moving on to non-resident student tuition. And I'm going to let Michelle fill you guys in on our meeting we had. She was actually there, myself and Max were on Zoom.
So I want to go back for a little bit. So the non-resident student tuition has been something that I don't know if we just, I recall discussing it last year
Mhm.
at a retreat and or some budget personnel and negotiation committee meetings. Obviously this year, we had to make some difficult decisions about cuts to programs and cuts to staff. So we're not, and I guess kind of like the COVID years or the years where, money isn't an issue, I guess, for lack of better terms. But regardless, this is something that we had been, talking about. I know that I have had a couple conversations with Dr. Schmidt in the past. And he had mentioned that it would be something to kind of talk about at a policy committee meeting. I don't necessarily have any problems with the way that our policy is written. Pam, I'm guessing, gave everyone a copy. Thank you for that. I had asked for this to be added because I believed or was under the impression that this was the night that we would need to have a conversation about this if that's what was going to happen. So in order to be prepared for that, to try to have some kind of fruitful conversation, I had recalled that it was something that I wanted to make sure that we at least talked about as a board, and didn't miss an opportunity to discuss. So I had reached out, of course, we're kind of in this in-between area. So reached out to just try to gather some more information that I thought would be helpful, at least for me, to be able to make an informed decision about something like this. So one of the things that I knew that I wanted to, or one of the things that I was wanting to know was the last time that we had set a tuition rate. And Aaron provided me with that information. Are you helping me out with that, Pam, too? Thank you.
This was the last time that we did 7.
So in 2018, what was that for the 2018-2019 school year? There was a tuition rate of $1,000 set. And then prior to that, I think we had a higher tuition rate.
2,600.
It was 2,600 prior to that. So since I've been on the board, we hadn't had any conversations or even, added it for an item of discussion. I believe there were 85. Now I might pick on Sarah to help me out. How many kids were on the out of district list that we accepted last year?
74.
74. Okay. I think 85.
50% of them are staff kids.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly 50%.
Yeah, split right down.
Yeah. So just taking a look at, given, kind of how we are at this point in time, what I was, seeking, is this something that is, something that this board should consider doing or not? And it was decided that having, in-person via Zoom for Buddy and Max conversation, with some of the staff and administration that would be most helpful. So I came to being able to decide if that was something that the board should discuss. So I came away from that conversation, with the belief that it is something that this board needs to strongly consider doing. Is setting a rate. We had talked about, amounts. I did also ask Erin to give me any kind of data she might have about surrounding districts, and what their rates are. So she provided us with some of that information too. And that was also a conversation that we had at this meeting was, what would be a rate that the board should consider setting. So I'm in favor of us looking to set a rate for out-of-district students that do not belong to staff and personnel at this point in time. So as Tracy kind of just pointed out, it would be half of that list.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Would this be with that 37 kids that aren't staff related? Are we talking about kids that have been here for 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 years and came here under the impression that they weren't going to pay tuition and now we're going to, or are they going to be grandfathered in and we do this for any new? That's my concern.
I can't speak for what happened
Mhm.
before I was a board member. I would hope that no kid that ever came in was given the impression that you're never gonna have to pay tuition to be an out-of-district
Mhm.
student. Our policy certainly says we set a rate. It looks like we had one for a long time, then we didn't, we did. I know that part of what was shared at that meeting was there were, even staff that some years they paid, some years they didn't for their own students. Or their own children, excuse me, that were students. I would be really upset if there was a kid that was ever accepted from 2020 on that was given the impression by anyone at the school that you're never gonna have to pay. I mean, I think if that's the case, then we probably someone failed
Mhm.
in that aspect. But quite honestly, for me, what I'm at is, we are, looking at class sizes, reducing staff. That makes things kind of, there's a little bit of an overload. In having those conversations, I think there's certainly, some additional pressures that are added to staff. And it's just something that I myself am in support of at this point.
There's a lot of circumstances that it's gonna be beyond our control, like Tim stated, but the impression that you'll never have to pay it on was never put out there when I've been on board.
Right.
I understand your concern, but a couple of points that were brought up is
Mhm.
my daughter with new visions.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yep.
let's say she started kindergarten as a non-resident, never paid a penny, and then here we are spending $17,000 to sell them new vision.
Valid point, right?
I mean, so there's a lot of different circumstances that they are getting a benefit.
Yeah.
Really
For the
think about-
BOCES program or all that, it's
Yeah.
expensive, and we're paying for that and not getting anything back. And the good old days of having endless money, which when
No,
I
I
first
get
got on board, I thought we did. I was told we did when I first got on board, but anyway. No, you corrected me every couple of years, and, but I guess my point is that we had to reduce staff.
Mhm.
We had to cut programs that our kids, I should say our kids, our
Yes,
taxpaying
right,
kids
right.
are not allowed to have anymore because we had to cut them. So how is it fair that people are just cutting?
That was just a question. I'm not in favor or not in favor. I'm just throwing it out there because I can think of one young lady right now that started school in kindergarten right around the time we got rid of tuition. And now she's entering.
Well, so I'm gonna hold that thought.
Mhm.
Where's she entering what grade?
I want to say 7th.
Okay, so then that person should have paid tuition at some point, because in 2019, there was a rate set, and as my
Yeah,
understanding.
and it may be the first.
If there was,
Yeah.
so they already know that it ebbs and flows. I hear what you're
Yeah.
saying, but that would be a person, that scenario that you just gave, that person would have paid, or their parent would have
Okay.
paid a non-district.
Yeah,
rate.
not knowing the timeframe, but I know she's been here a long time.
Yeah, I know that.
Just on the opposite,
Yeah.
there's another student that's, let's say, going into kindergarten and all of her siblings aren't going to school, just because she lives in a different
Right.
spot, she wants to be with her.
Right.
She's gonna have to pay too.
Yeah.
That's just,
Yep.
it is what it is. I mean, it's tough and it's.
No, I'm not, like I said, I'm throwing these things out there,
Yeah.
because that's what we're gonna hear.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to hear.
That's
from
why we
different-
opened it up to have
Yeah.
conversations, so everybody hears exactly what, the reason why.
I understand, yeah.
And, wish we couldn't, we had to.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's just one of those things where, I mean, put a face to the name and it's,
Mhm.
you don't like it. I mean, it doesn't feel
No, I get
good
it.
to do, but if you just look at the facts of what needs to be done moving forward, it makes sense to help the staff, the faculty and our taxpayers, you know, just to me, it makes sense and that's why I'm in favor of
Do
it.
we know what the going rate around the county is, other districts, maybe what Alfred was, what,
It's all over the place.
is it all over the place?
One of the things that we did at Alfred Almond was we had, let's just say it's a single student.
Mhm.
There was a rate for the first year, second year was reduced, third year was reduced more, and then the fourth year, they were committed to the district. Then the tuition was eliminated. If it was a multi-student family, the second student and therefore was split like 50%.
Yeah.
So like it was on a sliding scale.
Mhm.
But I think, you know, one of the things too is that as we're looking at the students, and I think from what I gathered from just having some administrative conversations, is that we're not necessarily following the policy to the degree that it should be followed. So like in the policy, because I reviewed the policy today, there is that leeway to eliminate if you're overstaffing, if there's behavioral concerns, if there's needs that a student exhibits that requires us to perhaps add another service or another teacher. Those are the decisions that should be made in eliminating, you know, the right for that student to attend, because it is very outlined in your policy, and you certainly have a right that's not discriminatory, that it's there, and that's why the policy is written as such. One thing, just so the board's all aware too, letters did already go out on June 6th to out-of-district students, parents, and it doesn't say anything about tuition. Just so you know, I mean, just so that,
Yeah.
so, you know, full disclosure of like where you're at.
That was just elementary. Yeah, it's just elementary.
Okay. But just, you know, one of the things I think I shared with Michelle today is like, you know, just keeping in mind community relations too.
Mhm.
Just,
I think.
Well, and my
what-
understanding was always that this is when we would discuss that. So I didn't realize it was something, if that's the case, what Tracy's saying, it makes sense, but makes sense to be as proactive as possible.
Oh, yeah.
But also I think, you know, my understanding was that, you know, we would look to set a rate at our reorganizational meeting.
Yeah. And I think,
And if I'm correct, at last year, we made a comment to the former superintendent that we didn't want letters going out until we decided exactly what we wanted to do.
yeah,
And it was supposed to be enforced because we weren't sure. We knew pre-K 3 and 4 had to go out because of grant.
mhm.
But I remember specifically saying, you know, let's not send anything out until we know what we're gonna do next year. So
Right.
Because we had been talking about this for a year. So.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we want.
I think setting a rate, but I think when it comes down to revising the policy, and I think that's probably the policy you were talking about.
No.
No, it's
No,
not.
it was a different policy. But
We couldn't find anything wrong with this policy.
I kind of like where,
I don't think we need to revise.
We just, we have to set a rate.
because the
A part-
policy gives you the option to.
what Tracy was saying about student being invested in the school, and I kind of, that hits home with me, and that somebody that is invested in the school and has spent the last 6 years here and doesn't plan on leaving the district, is kind of, this has been her home district because she lives 2 houses over the line. I kind of like that caveat. I don't,
And I get
I know.
that. I agree with you 100% on that. I mean, you don't want to think somebody is not part of the district, is not a resident, even though they're invested.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we've had teachers that said their kids were gonna go here forever,
mhm,
and all of a sudden they pull out to go to a different
Yeah.
school. And you would thought they were vested. So they
Yeah.
used GV for a stepping stone
Yeah.
and then moved on. So to me, it's hard for me to justify to a taxpayer
Right.
that
no, I get it.
your kid's not gonna get the education they had before
Right.
because we had to cut these programs.
And if they really want to be here, they're gonna pay that.
Right,
tuition.
right.
Reagan also spoke at the meeting that it's trickling into athletics.
Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, it's, yeah, raised on.
I think we're 3 kids away from being Class D in baseball next year. I think we're 8 away from being Class D in basketball, so we're the smallest C schools.
Mhm.
That's.
Just something to consider when you
Yeah.
talk about cuts and adding new tools and all of that. Spoke to that.
So.
guess
And they have, I have done it, so I'm familiar with what Tracy's talking about too. I've seen that from Alfred Altman. I don't think that it's anything that we can't consider in the future. Obviously, that would take a little bit of time. I don't know if we would want to do it by policy. I mean, certainly we could make it, a goal or part of a policy committee meeting. But I think still, in front of us is figuring something out for next school year, and I don't want that to go.
You mean this school year? We're in the school year.
Right,
Yeah.
25, 26.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's more information that we need, or specific questions that we want to ask. I think, administration's happy to answer those for us, Tracy can help us. But the other thing is too, is that, I mean, if this is the direction that we're going, we need to let our families know that, so
Well,
sooner.
and
rather
that's
than
my
later.
concern is making sure well in advance that they know this is.
Yeah,
And whether we phase in, a payment plan, or, so they're not stuck.
Aaron's not
I'm
gonna.
not for that.
and
I
Aaron
get it.
did provide information that, I think that entire list, anyone that takes out of district students makes them pay upfront.
Mhm.
Do you have the BOCES
I
data book?
don't have that.
So
Well, Paige, I might call out Allegheny Limestone. What's,
Installment plans as well, like two payments during the school year.
It's just, I have never had good luck with it. Then we get to June and you don't pay.
You still, yeah.
I mean,
well, when you're
I
starting
would
not
entertain it. It's just. I haven't had
It's
good luck
about
with it.
keeping nightmare.
Yeah, I would recommend payment in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's your safeguard.
I guess my biggest concern is just getting the word out there that this is happening. So that,
and that's why we're pushing it
Yeah.
tonight, because. I could take a straw vote right now. I'm definitely for doing something. We have to rip the Band-Aid off. We've had some big changes last year. We're continuing changes, but financially we're responsible for. Lori around the room, Max, what do you?
I'm for it. I think after, if we determine that we have a board majority and we need to determine an amount too.
Right.
Mhm.
I just want to see.
I'm for it.
I'm so on the fence of, I understand where everybody's head's at. I'm just thinking of those kids that have been here for years, not just a year or two, years. And now we're going to the parents saying, it's time to penny up or buck up or whatever you want to call it. But it is something that I think we need to pursue.
I'm for something happening for, some type of payment. I mean, I'm even, probably one of the only few, but I'm even thinking that it's not out of the realm for teachers that live out of district to pay half or a quarter to have their kids go. You're talking 36, 40 kids. That's still a cost savings. And who to say it's not a $17,000 kid program later, the teacher is benefiting from just because they teach here.
I think that will go into the details, after we decide what kind of rate we're doing, who's getting charged, what's getting charged and that. I just want to see the charge.
I think for me, Sean, there's a retention piece to that too, that I think that I want to be very thoughtful about. So that's why I had said initially that, I'm not there yet. I think that we need to have ongoing conversations, certainly. And this, I don't want you, I'm happy to hear that, you're voicing that. I just wasn't quite there yet myself. So.
I'm with the rest of the guys and gals.
What's your exact opinion?
I'm with Tim on. The retention part was with the students that have been here a while. I'm with Sean on possibly the faculty, but also with Michelle on, you want to keep your faculty here, so. But definitely a number, yes.
David,
Yes.
so.
I mean,
just interject one? Not to contradict you, but having served as the assistant superintendent of BOCES for CTE, I can tell you that that is in your BOCES bill. So the following year you get reimbursement at whatever your BOCES aid rate is revenue. So I still get your paying up front completely, but you do get, like, I don't know, usually typically I'm saying probably 86%. I don't know what your BOCES aid rate is. 77. So you would get 77% of that tuition back the following year in your state aid run. But I didn't mean to contradict, but that's how BOCES aid works, is that whatever you pay in your BOCES bill, the ones that qualify for reimbursement, most everything does, you'll get your BOCES aid back the following year.
Oh, so if a kid goes to
It's-
BOCES, is what you're
yes.
saying?
Oh,
Yes.
right.
All right, I was
Like
confused.
the New Vision or something like that.
Right.
So that would be in your BOCES bill.
Right.
The following year, you would get your state aid.
That's
Your
77%.
BOCES aid, excuse me.
Right,
Yeah, you get that revenue back and it becomes in your state aid run.
right.
Yeah.
That's 77%.
Correct, not 100%. Yeah, I just wanted to,
But we're also
put that
lacking
detail out.
on the state money for having, because they're out of district, right?
No, you
We're
still
not
get-
receiving,
You get pupil, you get your state aid for your students. If they're enrolled in your district, you get your state aid.
Yeah, we do, but it's just running the numbers of what the extra cost.
Oh,
is.
yeah, it's still not gonna
Yeah.
equate, but you do get your attendance aid.
Pre-K.
no,
Because what you're thinking of. Oh, yeah.
I know the number that was proposed was $2,000 a year. I also know it was proposed that we had spoke about that we weren't accepting any more non-district kids.
Mhm.
Well,
This
I
year.
think what was proposed was just in light of how, from the conversation, it seemed that, it is to the extent that, being able to make sure that we can keep all of the kids, that have gone the prior years.
Mhm.
Taking a look at not accepting any new out-of-district students for this year. And I think that, there were some conversations that would warrant why that would probably be in the best interest of the district at this point.
Do we say students or do we say families? I know there are some families that have
Students.
students here already
Yeah,
that want to bring other
Yeah.
family members
we
in.
actually did talk about that specific scenario, and it was basically kind of the problem is, Tim, is I think, it's just how do you be consistent?
Yeah.
And I think that when you start making, or when, we as a board ask administration,
Mhm.
or support them at making, a different decision than the norm for one kid or another kid, then that's when that's very difficult for them. And it's difficult for everyone else too, to know what the expectation is. So I think that to just have a clear understanding, my recollection of the conversation is that it's just, what those of us that were there, what we ended on was recommending that there not be any additional students that had been accepted prior considered for next year based on some of the criteria in our
Right.
policy that says non-student enrollment requests will only be considered when
Yeah.
and where,
Yep.
based on some of those factors that we went through to discuss some of the things. So, I appreciate what Tracy said too. And just want to kind of reiterate that certainly myself as a board member, I always, expect and believe that our administration, our staff are going to do the best that they can to follow the policies that we have. And if there are issues with them and they need to be rewrote or tweaked, so one of the things Tracy mentioned was to some extent, maybe we hadn't been following that as well as we should have been. And certainly, I support also, administration when they're looking at this, supporting that moving forward too. So.
We just caution you not to, and I know where you're going with saying we're not going to accept any out of district students for the upcoming year. You want to make sure that they fit into your categories of your policy. So I wouldn't say that out loud. You know what I mean? Not say that you're not going to accept any district students because each case is a case by case basis and you're going to evaluate based on the criteria that is in your policy. But it sounds like, you know,
We did say it out loud, but.
well, yeah, right, but, well, there was no decision made, you know,
No,
we're
but-
just talking,
I
we're
think-
just talking at this point.
Right, but just to get it out there, that criteria from what we see is already filled, because if what I understand from most administration, that all these classes are
Right,
full, so we
right.
would have to hire somebody
Yes.
extra.
Well,
I'm just saying, as each applicant comes in, you need to say, but, you know, I'm sorry, however, this would require us to add an additional, you know, section or additional staff, or these are needs that we can't meet without, you know, changing our staffing routine, et cetera. Just
Yeah,
for
that's,
protection.
yeah, that's
you
the
know,
point, Tracy. And that was
um,
kind of how, that was how it was said.
Right.
We had that conversation.
So, I mean, it's. We have to agree on a number. Michelle's not gonna be here next meeting, and this will be on the agenda to adopt next meeting.
I'm fine with two. I mean,
Are we? Tracy had mentioned, you know, second student is, or second. Person in the same family as last, or where are we going with that?
Me and Tracy can agree to disagree. I think that's gonna be.
Sharing what-
No,
what the-
that's it. I
what
think
the-
that's gonna be a nightmare for Aaron and for Paige to do that, to figure out. You know, okay, we got 4 years, they got 4 years in, so we're just gonna let this person go. I just.
I think he was talking the number of students that they've got.
5 kids
We've
in
got-
one family?
We've already got 3 students in the school district. Now we're telling them, we're not charging you just $2,000. We're charging you $6,000.
Is that
Do you
how-
go 1,000, 1,500 and 1,000? You know, so it's,
We had said that we would do it that way because historically that has been our practice, but. You know, I'll reiterate again, I really think that this is an ongoing conversation that we should have throughout the year to see how things, you know, are going and be very proactive about. You know, our 2026, 2027 year, if we do look to set this, you know, what's gonna be the best path moving forward and how can we be more proactive? But historically, correct, Erin, if we set a rate of 1,000, it's each kid in the family pays 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've only been here where they've charged it 3 years and each kid did pay that. I don't, before that, I really don't.
Sure.
Which, like I said, I think this is gonna be an ongoing conversation with, for the whole year to figure out where we need to be, but. As of right now, to get it started, like you said yourself, these people need to be aware of this as soon as possible. I know Max.
part of my concern is. And not to say we would ever mean it this way, but it almost becomes discriminatory in those that can pay the $6,000 versus those that can't pay the $6,000. And I'm just using 3 kids as a ballpark, but I look at that as almost discriminatory to a certain extent.
And quite honestly, so that's the number that we obviously were not discriminating against
Yeah,
anyone.
yeah.
It was $1,000 in 2019. I don't think, you know, anything is cheaper now than it was in 2019.
Like I said, I'm not opposed to the number. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to look at all aspects of it.
That's why.
And I'm trying to think of society and how society, I mean, the world is blown up. Everybody sues everybody over everything, and that discriminatory piece is,
That's why we're having the discussion. We want to make sure when we come out of this, that everybody's on the same page.
yeah.
I also feel like you get what you pay for. You can pay
Mm-hmm.
50,000 and drive a Chevy to be happy, or 25 and drive a Toyota. What do you want for your kids? That's what it is. I mean, it really comes down to, what do you wanna put into the education of kids? If you're choosing to come to the school district, there's a reason why.
Right, and they can go to the district.
I was gonna say, and not to discredit anyone, but we're not denying them a right to education.
Right.
They will have a place to go to school if for some reason they can't afford that.
Right.
I mean, certainly we're,
I'm just throwing these out.
no, I get it. Tim, I appreciate it. I
I
like
wish
it.
we
because
would
it
have
helps-
having these conversations
It
over the
helps
last
me
year.
to think outside the
Yeah.
box too. I mean, if you don't say it, it's not gonna, what's that?
He said we wish we had more than past year, and I said,
Yeah.
have all our policy committee meetings.
Yeah, so we just didn't have an opportunity
Yeah.
to talk about it the way that I was hoping to
No,
talk.
I get it.
So,
I think it would be more discriminatory if we were denying their right to education, but since they could go right in their home district, I don't. see it as a-
I think as long as you set your policy and you apply a tuition and you apply it fairly and consistently, there's no discrimination
Right.
issues.
You also have to come to consensus on who you will charge, because really, knowing when you put that rate out, people are gonna wanna know who it applies to. And in your policy, it does say that Genesee Valley employees still free.
says they may, I think, right, Tracy? I'm not advocating at this point for staff being charged, but I believe the words may. May come,
And attend,
can attend.
yeah.
Without payment.
But May is in your tuition, may be charged if they only see, it gives you the flexibility of charging or not charging. The only question I had is, and when you do look at this policy is, letter G, September 15th. And I don't know if that's because they're gonna, you have to send in a letter of intent by the 15th of August. However, the staff members have to send it in by the 1st. I'm assuming because they get first priority. What happens if your class is too full and the staff member tips it over, But I don't understand letter G to September 15th. If they're going to be reviewed from July 1st to September 15th, because all of your applications should be in by the 15th
By
of
the start of
August.
school, yeah.
So-
That never got amended, but we've always operated July 1st, August 15th.
Yeah.
Right.
Everyone.
Maybe it was a
Right.
typo.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that should be right. But,
About that.
I guess that just for discussion, what does happen if it's the staff member's child that's gonna tip your scale? Where does the board land on that?
As far as adding another section of students.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's not
Or
a
another
collective
section.
bargaining agreement, so like, and it just says can
Mm-hmm.
in here. So like if, let's just say, yeah, or they had a high needs child that, you might need to add another special education teacher. I'm just giving you an example. Other staffing or services that you could provide. What if they came in and their IEP required a nurse and then you have to hire a nurse because it happens.
Well, but-
Where would that fall for the staff members then? Like, how would you?
I think you modified the policy to be consistent in the, if it tips the scale and it requires extra staffing, they cannot be accepted.
I really think all these points should apply.
Yep.
Staff.
To everybody.
Great.
I would encourage you to review the policy and really kind of take a look at some of the way it's written. Leaves some holes.
yeah,
Where do we go from here?
It's everybody
I
think.
think we need to. It's just a little bit. With some of the discussion, what Aaron just said makes very good point. What Tracy said is, what if one of these teachers' kids does tip the scale? It's a high needs. There's nothing in there that says that.
But don't they still have to be
It
approved
says
by the principal?
non-resident student enrollment requests will only be considered where. And that is prior to it saying anything about, out-of-district students belonging to staff.
But they've categorized future students, former residents, GDCS district, foreign exchange.
Right.
So like they broke out those subgroups on that second page.
And I understand that. I just think that it was probably intentional with them beginning this policy by saying enrollment requests will only be considered where. And certainly, if it needs to be spelled out better, I'm not against doing it, but I think that needs to be a larger part of the conversation that's probably not going to be accomplished. So
Well, and that's to that point.
if
I
we want to do it
think
the right
we're
way.
rushing this to the point where we're trying to make up for a year's worth of not talking about it, and it's no one in this room's fault that we didn't talk about it. It's kind of something that we knew we wanted to accomplish, and it was pushed to the back.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't wanna rush it and just say we're charging $2,000 for every student that is out of district and just not be able to have this conversation. I mean, we could be here probably until midnight having this conversation and try to come up with a plan. Is that? I don't know.
I think, so we did just take a straw vote and everybody agreed to forward with it. I think now we just need to come up with an amount. If it needs to be a reduced rate for the first year or something, if that's what we're saying, but, or if it's, we agree on the 2,000, I think that's kind of where we need to settle from here. And anything on policy is gonna need to be done at a later time, so I understand.
I mean,
2 weeks to make small tweaks.
we'll let you have a first reading, a second reading, unless you want to waive them. We don't have a policy committee meeting before that.
First reading. No,
This isn't the new policy.
I think we've done policy readings via email.
I mean, and then you're gonna let people, you would be notifying people too late of what maybe the expectations were.
The other part is I'm, and I don't know if I'm blowing protocol or what. I'm kind of curious as to what Dr. Kennard thinks.
Sure. I don't think you're.
This is gonna be her district in a matter of days.
Absolutely.
I mean, a couple things that stood out in the policy to me is it talks about a contract that the family signs. What is in that contract? And like, I did look at policies at a couple neighboring districts. And one of our neighboring districts here in Allegheny County does specifically spell out acceptable behavior and academic standards so that it's very objective, not subjective, like failing 2 or more classes in 1 marking period, absent or late for more than 10 days in a 10-week period, because that's going to impact our chronic absenteeism rate, or engaged in more than 2 disciplinary referrals in 10 weeks. So I think there's parameters that would allow some of this language to be much more objectively interpreted and would allow us to have the meat we need to follow through. If Sarah has a 10th grader that's failing all their core classes, and we can then ask the family to, enroll them in their home district. I think just economically, it's very difficult for a family to come up with that amount of money on short notice. So maybe not, it doesn't seem like you're all in agreement with the way that Alfred Ullman staggered it down, but maybe it's coming up with a number to start for this school year. And then re-looking at what the responses we get, and then adjusting that number moving forward.
I know Max had mentioned to me that they don't like to speak for you.
I don't know what you're about.
That's gonna give me a bunch of money.
It really depends, buddy.
He had mentioned on the phone that, that the $2,000 he wasn't really fond about, but he said, he could live with it. But then he was wondering if we started it off into the policy again this year being new and then moving on after our thing. So definitely got the Band-Aid ripped off to understand the people know they're gonna get charged. And then next year we can set our rate. That's something another, board can consider. I don't know. I don't have an issue either way.
I mean, and I'm okay with 2,000 if that's where we all want to go. I'll back it 100%. It's just me. I wanted to want everything forward with some kind of policy. That number wasn't something that needed to happen.
The other thing that you could look at in the policy is taking out that verbiage in C that says that the tuition rate is set annually at the reorg meeting. Because then if you set a rate now for this school year, then in January, we could revisit it. If you're gonna set a new rate for the 26-27 school year, and that would give plenty of notice to families if there's gonna be an increase.
I kind of agree with Paige on that because
I do too.
that gives us a fact, and I think that now we will hoping that we'll have more community meetings, more governance.
Well-
We can discuss this through all our more budget meetings,
Mhm.
compared to what we've had in the past. So we got some these numbers out there, I'm sure.
But
But
I
it would
guess that's where I'm at, is
Yeah.
me personally, if we were to have to take a vote right now, I would probably vote no, only because I think we're shoving it into it, you know. And I think we need to spend more time and come up with a good plan and get it out to the public, or especially those families that it's going to pertain to, you know, in a timely manner, so that they don't get a bill next week for $2,000 for a student.
Yep, and I agree with it, but I understand we gotta rip the Band-Aid off.
Right.
And to me, I mean, if you wanna go with the lower, just so they know, okay, we're
Yeah.
paying,
Yeah,
and we're gonna be paying from now on.
yeah,
I just.
which I can live with that.
I think
Yeah.
we gotta charge some sort of tuition right now.
Yeah.
That's my point. I don't care if it's $5 or it's $5,000, but whatever the board decides, we have to charge tuition.
Yeah.
Just so that everybody knows this is a role we're going. And if we can update the policy, like Paige said, and redo it in January to figure out what number we need to be at.
Yeah.
Then, but that'd be it.
Well, right, that would be something
Yeah.
that I could certainly see that we could do is, you know, have a new policy to present, say in December,
Yes,
to be able to have conversations moving forward, and we can see
I
how
can agree with that.
it went.
Gotta be more than $5 though.
Less than 5,000?
So I just want to ask real quick, because this is something that every single time I look at a policy, and Pam, I'm gonna look at you because I don't want to make your job harder, but maybe you just know. It would be so helpful for me to know how this policy evolved, like particular, and it might just be something small, but I know historically when I've tried to look at things, all we really have, right, is just one. This is December 16th, 2019 policy. We don't have 2015, 2016, 2018.
That's Penny hasn't been record retention. I don't know.
Okay. I think, do you don't, this does the same, like, when this one,
Do anything for you if you don't have a policy to go back to.
right,
I agree.
yeah,
Totally agree.
yeah, and that, it, all it does is make me wonder, what is it?
And because you subscribe to, Erie BOCES, the Policy and Regulation Service, they provide updates to policies that are templates, and then you can customize it, so that could also be part of maybe an update came out.
Sure.
too.
Question for the Sarah that Sean just asked, and I can't answer, and I'm thinking you two are, from- how many families do we have with multiple students? You ballpark it?
That are non-staff members or?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's say with non-staff members, right?
I'd say I like a hand,
Feel.
5 families that would have multiple students
And we have,
out of 37.
I know at the high school level, I have siblings who's had a family, but they've been graduated.
Gotcha.
Maybe they're the youngest or,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
So maybe 2 or 3 tops in a single family out of the district.
yeah, I don't think we have anybody over 3 kids.
no.
We have a couple letters upstairs for people requesting for next year who have children already going here.
Yeah, but I think those might be, we have, definitely have staff
Yes,
members who have 3.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But out of
Yeah,
district,
district.
non-staff, no more than 3.
I don't think off the top.
I
of my
can't think
head
of one.
there's
I
any
can't think
family
of
that has
one
more than
over
Just
3.
thinking $1 amount to throw
Yeah.
at somebody.
Well, and that's,
Really, the list to be.
Well, $1,000 would be 3,000, which would be
Yeah.
300 a month through the school year. So
Mhm.
if you think about it like as a monthly breakdown for the 10 months of the school year.
Get notice out till August. You know, it'll be August really before they receive the notice.
Mhm.
So depending on what your due date is, you know, they may,
What is it, big normally? What was it, I guess, back in the day?
Back in the day, we really didn't have one. We did payment plans. We offered those. But we had discussed doing it before the start of school. Or
Yeah.
even before they were accepted by the board. So like August 10th, I believe was the date that was discussed. Obviously, that's very soon.
especially people that are on, you know, pretty strict
Fixed,
budget,
no.
a fixed
Yeah.
budget, that,
Yeah.
you know, they didn't plan for it.
I agree with
We're
Buddy.
doing half upfront, halfway through the year, but if we don't get it by a certain day halfway through the year, then the policy needs to be followed where they need to go back to their.
There are other ways for people to get payment plans too, other than through the school. I mean, they could pay it on their credit card, just make payment. Do that.
I
We
don't,
don't take it out payments.
Amazon.
Nobody. So I mean, whatever you guys want, well, I'll do whatever you guys want to do.
I guess I'm just taking suggestions. I know 2,000 was the number that's brought up, but open to any.
Like the idea is to get 1,000 and then do this.
Putting all the policy, going getting together, looking at this and then putting it out
Right.
December for the next year. So this is the sum amount that's gonna be going forward.
Yeah, if we went with $1,000 right now,
That's what it was,
Yeah.
when we gave it up.
the 19,
Mhm.
yeah, 2019, so if we ain't with $1,000 now. And then we changed the policy to negotiate the price in January as a part of a budget.
Mhm.
And then, that'll give 6 months for families to realize this is what they're gonna be paying. I know it's a short notice and stuff, but this has been talked about for years.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, to, transparent, try to be as transparent as I can, but
Yeah,
we had discussed this for.
like you said, it's not anybody's fault that's in this room, so.
So I'm good with 1,000 max.
Yeah, I honestly came in expecting to support 2,000. I was okay with that, but I'd support 1,000 too, just because it is short notice.
Tim,
Yeah, I'm good with it.
John,
Good with that.
James, Jamie. Michelle. Okay, I'm good with it. So that'll be on the agenda for the July 22nd meeting.
Now, how quick can we get those letters out?
Well, you can't really send them out until you vote. So you could have it ready to go.
We could have a draft for you to look at to see what the verbiage would be.
The date, yeah.
Yeah, because I definitely like to review the verbiage that we put out, so.
Okay.
And the quicker we can get the letters out, the easier it's gonna be to get the plans.
Are we gonna do payment plan this year? Like, I really think if we're sending them out so late, we should have. Would do like
And if you did quarterly,
like
earlier half, I would do monthly.
yeah.
because then you have a cutting point of like,
It could be something we change next year, but to say,
Let's
send a letter out. and say, I need
Let's
you to
start with
pay
half, if it
15
doesn't
days.
bother Aaron too bad, we'll do half, and then, I'm pretty sure our Paige and our administration, they'll follow up on
Mhm.
issues that if they're not getting paid, so that's part of the policy, so. I think the policy will be followed through now, so.
Yeah.
I'm good with half.
You'll have.
Why do they, what for the other hand? We'll put the dates in the letter that, assuming you guys will draft it or whoever drafts it. I'll look at the calendar and see. Definitely the first batch, see if he. My opinion on it, even though it's fine the year, because you guys had. And halfway through the year,
Beginning of the year, halfway through.
yeah, but I don't
So
know what that date
mid-January,
would be, let's
mid-January.
look at the calendar.
And if they don't meet these expectations, they might not have to worry about this.
Right.
Because you'll exclude them from.
Right.
So we'll just have, Aaron and Paige work on that, and find some verbiage to go out. All right. Well, we got this discussion to take care of. I don't know if Terry got out or not, he's here, don't know.
Can try to.
She accepted, the grant writer wanted to speak with the board over a grant that was.
She called me personally and I didn't take her call because it's not for me to answer questions.
Right. And to me, I stated that I can't answer for the board because we're kind of in limbo. Sorry, Tracy, but at the time we were in limbo.
It's okay.
Um,
I already know I'm not a superintendent.
Just one time, but, it wasn't for me to answer either. I told Michelle that and I told Max because I don't know where the board feels. I know my personal opinion, but I want to bring it in front of the whole board.
Mhm.
From what I understand is she wanted me to discuss it. She was gonna join on the team meeting, but If you didn't, what they're looking for is a 50/50 grant through the federal government. And it is for the drama production of a projector for the auditorium. I'm gonna speak for myself. My opinion on it is we've cut people. Our capital project is way over budget. I don't see $37,000 be able to come out of any budget.
Budget our half.
Yeah, that's our.
So this is the match to the grant,
Mhm.
so it requires
Yeah.
35, 37, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they thought the best way was to do that through capital funds. Obviously, we're not gonna know the state of our capital project until the end of September.
Right.
I believe the grant is due at the end of July, could be wrong on that. But, yeah, so Chris and I don't feel comfortable saying, yeah, we can do this, especially not knowing where the funding.
What is this for?
So this is,
A projector for the auditorium. Or I guess it's for drama, but it could be for anything, but it's a projector.
Piece it now?
Not like state of the art one, I guess. I don't know.
It's some sort of dual projector. Chris tried to explain it to me today. It's definitely out of my realm.
But Aaron also brought up to me that, for some reason, if we did try to throw this in the capital project and we didn't have money in there, that would go back to our regular budget if we accepted this. So then we'd have to find $37,000 out of our regular budget.
so I'm looking at. So then if we had asked for an update a month ago about this particular, or just grants in general, and we're told that this would not include, or that this would not affect our budget, and that it would essentially be an in-kind and would cover salaries, that's not true.
I think when this grant originated, it was when the summer program was still in our budget. So a lot of those summer salaries that were in our budget were being used as in-kind cost or a match. And I know when I had the last, not the last, but one of the conversations I had with Terry, I said that's not happening anymore. So those need to be removed as our match. And then she kind of suggested the capital funding way of things.
I can appreciate you saying that, but I mean, that had happened after school program essentially happened in March, April.
That conversation took place before the emails.
So if I'm looking at an email in June, it's just not accurate.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I still come back to the point that we've asked to be notified before any grants are even
Well,
presented.
Oh.
And
we did the same thing tonight. I mean, we give the superintendent the authority to do that. And quite honestly, I think that if we're approving that, then we need to let them know. Certainly, I think communication is helpful. But we do approve for them to have the authority to do that. I think that kind of just what we're running across, or what it seems like, is that there's matches a lot of times with them that.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of these new grants are requiring matches.
it wasn't, and please hear me loud and clear, I do believe they have the right to apply for those grants. We just wanted to know ahead of time that, kind of like what we do at the county. Here's
Yeah.
approval to apply.
Well,
Here's approval to.
we actually did know something about this one. It's just not accurate from what Aaron said.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the way it was at the beginning, but it did change after our summer program was
Yeah.
cut.
Sure.
So
Understood.
that's when things changed, was my conversation with Terry. I guess I shouldn't say, I don't know,
Yeah, no, you're.
I never thought. of it, But,
And she mentioned to me that if it didn't go through this year, that possibly could file for it next year, but we might not have the same supporters we have this year, so. I could not answer. I wouldn't answer on behalf of the board.
It's just a projector. So that's all $4,000.
She said there's a lot of, that's why she wanted to join. There was a lot of stuff going in and out, but the nuts and bolts of it was that we're paying for half a projector and the federal government was paying for the other half.
So is it,
That's the nuts.
we're this far into it, I guess, how does it improve student experience, I guess?
Well, yeah, I guess we're getting national drama characters, actors, members
Disney or something.
coming to the school with that.
So,
think the majority of it is equipment. There's some other things like that, you know.
And I definitely want to support all of those.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that, but I want to support the program, but I just don't feel, my personal opinion, of spending $37,000 while we had to cut people's jobs.
That's a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this,
That's a teacher's aide position.
is this a piece of equipment that is just used for theater and drama, or would we use it for other functions?
I don't know that answer. I'm sure it probably gets used for other functions, but I just don't.
Probably for like kindergarten graduation. or something.
In graduation, we show the video in the beginning and.
How old is our projector today? Like, when you're thinking we're gonna have to replace this, does anyone know when we have to replace? the
I
current
don't
one?
think it's that old, the technology, like,
Yeah,
we replace it
every 2 years is like
Uh-huh.
the Z.
Wonderful, we have the money.
We don't have anything in the smart bond contract or whatever smart schools contract, those.
Well, Where does security?
People at this point.
But you probably
Yeah, I
can't
mean-
pay for it with another grant.
No, it has to be our. Mobile.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just tough not knowing where the bids come in. I mean, if we had the information upfront, I feel like we could definitely make the decision. You know, if we have the extra money, yeah, why not? You know, but
I'd
it's
say
just.
If it's
we don't.
something that we can put on, and you just said that it's something we could apply for next year. I think we just put it off and then try to apply for it next year if we can get all the facts presented to us.
So when is the grant awarded? Like it's due, the grant is due to be submitted by the end of July,
So,
but when is it awarded? Is it an automatic? Is it non-competitive?
no, I think there's, I don't know.
So,
I'm thinking she was saying September or something like that. If that's something.
so here's a thought. I mean, you're gonna get your, if you apply for the grant and, you know, it was awarded, you could reject it. You don't have to take it. And you'll have your bids before then. I mean, just as another option, if it is something you want to consider, you know, you'll have the information that you probably would need from the capital project before that. If it's not going to be awarded until September.
well, that's what I'm even wondering is like, how crucial is it for us to make a decision tonight? Would kind of, I mean, Terry's not here to present more on it. Is it something that if it can wait, we let it wait until we get more information, or does like the board need to say yes or no tonight?
I think she was just asking for somebody to say, go ahead and apply for it
Yeah,
Because
because as our match, basically.
with our
He
match
doesn't want to go ahead.
Because the
Yeah.
deadline's come right up, right?
Right.
July 20th.
this week, this coming.
But you have to pay her for each grant she applies for, probably, I'm assuming, correct? Yeah, she's a private.
Yeah, she's been working on this. We've pushed it off once now. Her for as much as I think she's just kind of waiting.
My understanding is that was gonna help us have like a summer drama production again. I guess that's not exactly what it is.
There was another grant too that was applied for, the boost grant, and I think a lot of that stuff was, well, like the summer drama.
And that's already been submitted.
This is an additional. Oh,
How much are we committing to the last one?
That has a $45,000 match.
The boost?
I don't know off the top of my head. I would have to look.
can I ask Paige's opinion on this one as well?
I don't think it's an urgent matter when we have more important things to think about than the projector and the theater. And you don't want to commit to something that we can't follow through with.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I agree with Tracy that like you can apply and then
Then reject.
reject, but depending on the agency, that can put you at the bottom of the list for the next.
For the next ones, right.
Yeah,
So,
true.
you know, with the other things that we have going on and as
I
Buddy
think
keeps
people-
saying, the transition,
Yeah.
we should just, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about charging kids to come to school here.
Right, now we're gonna just spend.
Yeah, I don't see it happen.
It's a tough year. I would definitely support the idea if we knew where we were coming with our capital project.
Yep.
We know what kind of money we had, but right now it's just a tough year. We don't know where we're at.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm saying scrap it.
I agree.
I'm there.
Chuck. No,
Yeah, I think it's don't know where the money's gonna come from. We can't approve something where we don't know where the money's gonna come from.
David. James. Timothy,
You know, I like it.
Max. And I agree with Tracy, but on the other hand, I don't want us on the bottom again. You guys stated,
Yeah, no,
if there's some grant that we do definitely
Right.
need. So.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to Terry, just tell him if we're gonna hold off for the shoot, we don't know what we do capital project.
That might be a grant that gets us 300,000 a day instead of
Right.
grants and charges, so.
Everybody likes free money, but we don't have money to get the free money. So.
It's like buying an item with a coupon that you don't really need, but you want to save. Yeah.
I do that all the time.
Just like them GM points on my credit card.
That's right.
I don't need a new vehicle, but I got
I
it.
can sell points.
All right, so I am going to ask for a motion to enter executive session.
I will make that motion and then for Tracy and Dr. Kennard stay.
Favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're going in executive session.